I'm Kira, a clinician at Project Courage. Today I'm just going to be talking very, very briefly about suicide prevention. And I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen for that. So, what is suicide? Basically, suicide can happen to anybody at any time. It's a way of utilizing means such as over the counter pills, a gun, poisoning oneself, asphyxiation, and so many different ways. Not necessarily to die, but to make the pain go away. And I would just want to go back there. There are a lot of people who have suicidal ideation at times, and not necessarily the intent or the plan to harm themselves or kill themselves. So there's a slight separation where not at times do people actually have like a full plan, which I'll talk about in a couple of seconds. But a lot of times people can have the suicidal ideation or the thoughts of wanting to harm themselves, but not necessarily having the intent and plan to. So, what's underneath suicide? A lot of overwhelming and uncontrollable emotions, a lot of fear of the unknown, or feeling like you don't fit in, an inability to express feelings, and um, having the ideation, having a plan, having the intention to harm oneself is a way to express your feelings and to communicate things that you can't in words necessarily. It's a way to feel in control, a way to release pain, thinking about not having any other sources of pleasure. It kind of can give somebody the sense of a high at times, releasing some of that deeply ingrained pain that you can't necessarily express in words or other healthy ways. Um, and it could also be a way to chastise oneself. So if you're feeling really down on yourself, feeling really worthless, like you don't really have anything to live for, it's a way to kind of beat yourself up. Um, Maybe feeling shameful or blaming yourself for things that aren't necessarily your fault. And like I said before, suicide doesn't discriminate. So anyone at any time can have suicidal thoughts or have the intent to want to harm themselves. So, say you recently lost a job, you lost a pet, uh, things are just not going your way, and it doesn't seem like anything good can ever happen again in life. We can start to see that maybe you're feeling down, and if you don't have the correct supports and healthy ways of coping, then there's a slight risk of suicidal plans and high risk of suicidal ideation. So just a little bit of statistics. Those who are at highest risk for suicide are usually, and it's a huge age range, I know, but 10 to 34. A lot of life changes during these times. And again, if you don't have the correct supports during these times and installation of healthy coping skills, then we do see a higher risk here. Those who identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual, again, not feeling accepted and just feeling uncomfortable in your body. Those who have a lot of trauma, and those who, again, don't have access to mental health care or support systems. Um, and then I just have for the next couple slides just some factors contributing to suicidal ideation and or planning. And these are some, they could be extensive. But again, feeling like you don't belong, having a trauma history of physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, not having that support from your family, friends, those who you consider family, especially if you're questioning your gender or sexuality. So, big question, how do we prevent suicide? The, the step is to really just be knowledgeable. So, if you see somebody or yourself researching ways to kill themselves, looking up how to write suicide notes, just discussing being in extreme pain and not wanting to live anymore, a really huge shift in behavior from possibly being a calm, content person to kind of being erratic and reckless. um, a lot of anxiety, loss of pleasure and things that they once used to enjoy. So if somebody was very social, um, on the football team, a cheerleader, I don't know, heavily in the arts or something, and then all of a sudden they just want to be alone all the time, that isolation. Um, and then we can get down to making that suicide note and saying goodbye to people, seeming like they have a huge weight lifted off their shoulders and they're just really, really happy. Um, so, what we want to do is create a safety plan. So, if we notice these warning signs, we want to make sure we remove all things from our homes or other spaces where somebody could actually harm themselves, like knives, guns, prescription pills, um, anything and everything you can think of that somebody can harm themselves with. Make sure that you have support systems in place. That could be mom, dad, friends, aunts, uncles, um, therapists. The Trevor Project is a great one for LGBTQIA plus youth. And really knowing those healthy coping skills that really um, don't necessarily make things highly better, but help and help you just stay alive. So it could be music, it could be going out in nature, it could be playing games with loved ones, writing. Make sure you make a contract with yourself, and this is important, somebody else to hold you accountable to do no harm. And that could be like a time interval of 24 hours just to get you by to the next day. Um, Remind yourself that you deserve to live because you do, and everybody deserves to live, and everybody deserves to enjoy life. Um, Again, utilize mental health services and really create routine and structure, getting up every day at the same time, going to bed at the same time, having activities planned at specific times. Um, and then these are just some resources for support: the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, the Trevor Project, again, I said for LGBTQIA plus is affirming for those youth. Um, and you can text or call a lot of these resources. To Write Love on Her Arms, again, offers really great psychoeducation for mental health, addiction, suicide. And there's so many more resources, but those are just a brief few.